Welcome back to CIA Declassified. I'm your host. On November 28th, 1953, at 2:30 in the morning, a body hit the pavement outside the Statler Hotel. It belonged to Frank Olson, a brilliant chemist working for the Army's Biological Warfare Laboratories at Fort Detrick. The police report said he jumped. The agency said he was stressed. But what they didn't say was that 9 days earlier, Frank had been at a secret retreat in Deep Creek Lake, Maryland. What he didn't know was that his glass of Cointreau had been spiked with a heavy dose of LSD by his own colleagues. Today, we look at the fall of the chemist. The Frank Olson case isn't just a whodunit. It's the moment the world first caught a glimpse of the agency's most infamous project. Frank Olson was part of Project MK Naomi, a joint CIA-Army program focused on the use of biological agents for assassination. He was one of the few men who knew how to turn a common virus into a weaponized aerosol. The man who spiked Olson's drink was Sidney Gottlieb, the head of the CIA's technical services staff and the black sorcerer of MK Ultra. Gottlieb wanted to see if LSD could be used as a truth serum or a way to discredit foreign leaders. Quote from a 1953 internal CIA review. The subject became extremely agitated and exhibited symptoms of paranoia following the clandestine administration of the substance. It was determined that he was a security risk due to his unstable mental state, end quote. For 22 years, the Olson family was told Frank died of a classified illness. It wasn't until the 1975 Rockefeller Commission report, which investigated CIA abuses, that the truth about the LSD experiment was finally leaked to the press. After the LSD trip, Olson tried to resign. He told his wife Alice, "I've made a terrible mistake." The CIA, fearing he would blow the whistle on their bioweapons program, sent him to New York to see a psychiatrist who was actually a CIA-linked doctor with no training in drug-induced psychosis. A quote from the Colby Memorandum. The Olson case was an unfortunate casualty in our search for necessary behavioral control tools. The subsequent cover-up was handled in accordance with the security protocols of the era. End quote. When Olson's body was exhumed in 1994, a forensic pathologist named James Starrs found a large hematoma on Olson's temple that had occurred before he fell. This suggested he was knocked unconscious before being pushed through the window. The night Olson died, his roommate in the hotel was Robert Lashbrook, a CIA agent. Lashbrook claimed he was asleep and only woke up after Olson dived through the closed window, through the curtains, and out into the night. The CIA paid the Olson family a $750,000 settlement in 1975 to prevent a lawsuit. President Gerald Ford even apologized to them in the Oval Office, the only time a president has ever apologized for a CIA experiment gone wrong. Gottlieb destroyed most of the MK Ultra records in 1973. The only reason we know about Olson is because of a small paper trail of financial receipts that were accidentally left in a different filing cabinet. The psychiatrist Olson was sent to, Harold Abramson, was one of the first researchers the CIA funded to study the effects of LSD on unwitting subjects, effectively making Olson's treatment a second experiment. Declassified logs show that Olson was particularly disturbed by his recent trip to Europe, where he witnessed terminal experiments on prisoners in Germany. He was becoming a moral liability to the agency. The Statler incident was investigated by the CIA's Inspector General Lyman Kirkpatrick, who issued a formal reprimand to Sidney Gottlieb for a lack of judgment, though no further disciplinary action was taken at the time. The specific dose given to Olson was 70 micrograms of LSD administered in a glass of Cointreau. According to declassified notes, the effects began within 20 minutes, leading Olson to become withdrawn and pensive. A quote from Sidney Gottlieb: "We were treading in a completely unknown field. The risks were high, but the potential for the security of the United States was considered paramount." End quote. Olson's son, Eric Olson, has spent over 40 years investigating his father's death, eventually securing the 1994 exhuming of his body that changed the official narrative from suicide to homicide. Internal CIA memos from 1953 show that the agency immediately took control of Olson's medical records and personal effects, ensuring that the New York Police Department never had a clear picture of his biological warfare background. If you look at the 1975 Internal Review today, entire pages regarding the final 24 hours are still blacked out. The heaviest redactions occur in the Lashbrook telephone logs. Speculation by investigative journalists suggests these bars hide a call made to a CIA safe house minutes before Olson went out the window. The theory is that Lashbrook was receiving a termination order from high-level management to ensure Olson never made it back to Maryland. Further speculation surrounds the aerosol testing section. Conspiracy theorists believe that the redacted texts describe Olson's involvement in a secret test where the CIA sprayed a pathogen over a U.S. city, and Olson's breakdown was actually him threatening to go to the FBI with evidence. There is a persistent theory that the redactions hide the true dose. Strictly speculation, but some believe Olson wasn't just given LSD, but a cocktail of BZ and other incapacitating agents that cause permanent brain damage, and the CIA pushed him to hide the medical evidence of their super drug. Some speculate the redactions hide a second man in the room. The theory holds that a professional wet work team was sent to Statler Hotel to assist Lashbrook, and the black bars protect the identities of legendary CIA assassins who are still alive. Conspiracy theorists often point to the Statler manager files. The speculation is that the hotel staff witnessed something in the hallway, and the redacted text describes the hush money or threats used to keep them silent for 20 years. Finally, there is speculation that Olson was drugged because he discovered that the biological agents he was developing were being tested on non-human biological entities held at a secret base. If Frank couldn't handle the truth, the agency made sure he couldn't tell it. There is significant speculation that the terminal experiments Olson witnessed in Germany involved the use of sarin gas on captured Soviet spies. The theory is that Olson's horror at these events made him the primary target for the spiked drink to see if his loyalty could be chemically reinforced. A common conspiracy theory suggests that the hematoma found in 1994 wasn't from a punch, but from a stun device tested by Project MK Delta. Speculation is that the agency was testing non-lethal subduing methods that accidentally caused the very brain trauma they then tried to hide by throwing him out the window. Some researchers speculate that Olson had discovered a biological trigger in the LSD, the theory that the drug could be used to activate sleeper agents. The speculation is that Olson was the first human test of this trigger, and his suicide was actually a programmed response that went wrong. There's a dark theory that the redactions in the Lashbrook debrief hide the fact that the CIA agent didn't just watch Olson fall, but actually pushed him while under the influence of the drug himself. Speculation that Sidney Gottlieb had drugged both men to see how an operative would handle a containment scenario while high. Finally, some speculate that Frank Olson's death was a dry run for the assassination of foreign leaders. The speculation is that the CIA used his fall to perfect the suicide by falling technique, which would later be suggested as a method for removing inconvenient political figures in South America. Was the Olson operation a success? Operationally, it was a disaster. While they successfully silenced Olson for 20 years, the sloppy nature of the suicide and the eventual leak led to the exposure of MKUltra, causing the greatest PR catastrophe in the agency's history. A quote from Richard Helms: "The Olson matter was handled poorly from start to finish. It created a ghost that has haunted this agency for decades. It was a failure of oversight and common sense." End quote. The death of Frank Olson led to the creation of the institutional review boards that now govern all government experiments. In a twisted way, his death saved countless others from becoming unwitting human guinea pigs. The fall of the Chemist led to a radical shift in how the agency handled internal security. Operational breakthroughs, personnel security. The agency developed more rigorous psychological screening for scientists working on deep black programs to prevent future moral crisis. Covert disposal protocols. The failure to hide the Olson suicide led to the development of more sophisticated methods for neutralizing internal threats without leaving physical evidence. Drug interaction database. The data from Olson's reaction helped the CIA map the psychological breakpoint of various chemical agents, information that was later used in enhanced interrogation. Document sanitization. The Olson leaks were the reason the CIA perfected the final decree redaction methods we discussed in previous episodes. They learned that a single receipt could bring down a secret empire. Frank Olson was a man who knew how to kill with a mist, only to be killed by a glass of wine and a long drop. His story is the ultimate warning. When you play with the human mind, everyone, even the scientist, can lose their grip. Thanks for listening. Join us next time as we're going to be leaving the Earth behind to find a needle in a jungle. We examine the 1978 downed Soviet Tu-22, the backfire bomber. When a Soviet nuclear bomber vanished over Africa, satellites found nothing, so the CIA turned to a woman in a room in Maryland who could see across the world. We'll look at the mission where a remote viewer found $1 billion wreck using nothing but her mind. Join us for the eye in the mind. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.